Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions. If you like the show, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Joining me today, we have once again Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cam?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is today we're going to be talking all about Wish, which made its debut on Disney Plus this week, and we both saw and if I recall correctly, we enjoyed it last year in theaters.
You enjoyed it a lot more than I did, but
Yeah. I think because this is one I think you saw first, and then I was like, yeah, I'll go check it out. Yeah, that was fun. It was interesting kind of like rewatching it and taking kind of a fresh eyes look at it. But yeah, if you want more of our thoughts on it, as we touched on there, you can go check out episode 195 of That Nerdy Site Show, which I believe was our kind of post-Thanksgiving weekend, because I'm pretty sure that's when we both would have seen the movie, because that's when it came out here in the US. Real quick up front, I want to make a public apology to Cam, who I slagged off last week when we were talking about X-Men, because he was like, "Oh no, it was a big deal when a bishop kind of showed up in the pre-title, or like in the opening credits in the opening bit," and I was like, "No, I don't think they did that. I was completely wrong, because they do it in more X-Men 97 things where they switch out based on who's going to be in that week's episode. So my apologies, Cam, for being dismissive of you and talking out my ass last week.
It's okay. Once again, I'm reminded of the great disbelief of lightsaber form, like lightsaber combat form discussion, where you guys are just like, no, like no. You're like, you have to be wrong, and I wasn't wrong. I was incredibly right, and like to a weird degree.
I don't remember that being so much as like disbelief of that you were wrong, so much as like, this is an insane thing for you to know.
Oh yeah, that's what I was referencing. It's like, okay. It's crazy that you know this, because like I said at the time, I have not read any articles on the lightsaber combat forms in many years up to that point, but I still remembered them.
Gotcha.
And it's just bonkers. So I'm also surprised. I'm not surprised at all, because I consider this like, I absolutely recall Bishop's custom like entrance when he was on a special episode of X-Men back in the 1990s. Like, once again, this is one of those things. It's like, it's crazy that I do remember this. Yeah. I shouldn't.
Anyway, but I was gonna originally raise that in the like other things you've been watching kind of section, where I was gonna talk about X-Men, but I figured I'll throw it up front. I'll throw it right up front here as my apology to you for being dismissive of you last week about that.
Well, yeah, I appreciate it. You're not wrong to have like felt like, hey, maybe I need to be dismissive of that, because honestly, it is kind of crazy. So I'm not. I don't like. No, absolutely. I accept your apology. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Wish, diving into the history lesson on this one. This was originally released, as we alluded to, November 23rd, 2023. Other releases of the time, we had the Taylor Swift The Eras Tour on October 15th, a month or so earlier. We had Killers of the Flower Moon on October 22nd. The 1-2 punch of Five Nights at Freddy's and The Holdovers on October 29th. The Marvels on November 12th. The week prior to this, we had The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Trolls Band Together, and Saltburn, all dropping on November 19th. Alongside Wish here, in the like Thanksgiving bunch, we had Wish, Napoleon, Maestro, and Good Burger 2 on November 23rd there. The following week, we would get Renaissance, a film by Beyonce on December 3rd. Poor Things, December 10th. Wonka, Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, Rebel Moon, American Fiction, and The Zone of Interest on December 17th, as a whole bunch of Oscar bait movies were dropping, and then Chicken Run and Rebel Moon. Then Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Migration, Anyone But You, and The Iron Claw, all dropping December 24th, Christmas Eve. And lastly, The Color Purple and Ferrari on December 25th. Box office breakdown. This will be interesting because it's just kind of you this time instead of when I pit you and Logan together. But what number Do you think Wish landed domestically and internationally, Cameron? The domestic gross of Wish came in only at $63.97 million in 2023. And because we did this, I think in when we did the Marvels or something like that, I will give you the heads up that the number 10 movie domestically was Sound of Freedom at 184 million.
I was about to say, like, if I recall correctly, it definitely didn't crack the top 10. I don't think it cracked the top 15, if I'm remembering correctly.
15 would be Transformers Rise of the Beasts, 157 million. So no, at 63 million, or almost 64 million, we are a ways away.
Ooh, if I'm actually remember this correctly, we're talking like 23?
Lower.
Lower?
We'll do this. We'll do higher, lower, and I'll just say lower.
Okay, so, not lower as in like it has to be a higher number than 23.
No, lower as in like it is. Yes, sorry. Yes, it is a higher number. Yes.
31.
Lower.
Oh my gosh, 43.
Higher.
Oh, there we go. 35.
Lower.
37.
I'll start giving the names here. 37 is Evil Dead Rise, and we are lower than Evil Dead Rise. And so the one we've been higher from so far, The Color Purple.
39.
That would be Paw Patrol, the Mighty Movie. Still lower.
40.
Cocaine Bear. Lower.
Didn't I say 41 and you said higher?
43 was
oh, so it's 42.
Higher. It is 41.
41.
It is Wish.
Gosh.
Yes. Wish
wow.
At 41 comes between Cocaine Bear and Napoleon. Cocaine Bear, about $600,000 above Wish domestically. Napoleon at 61.5 million.
That is brutal. That is brutal.
41. Just hit in that Thanksgiving spot, but nobody's really going to the movies that week, and then just kind of depressed turnout the rest of the year. So internationally, or worldwide rather, the movie, I'll say, fared better worldwide. We're looking at, and it's still open worldwide as well. So even when I originally pulled this a few days ago, the numbers have changed since then. So the numbers we're looking at today, 254.58 million worldwide. Where do you think that falls on the worldwide count? And I'll just give you once again the heads up that it's going to be lower than Elemental, and Elemental was number 10 at 496 million.
If it fared better, maybe 23.
23 is Taylor Swift: The Eras Tour.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Lower,
yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say 31.
Higher. 31. Paw Patrol: The Mighty Movie. You've landed on that one in both of them.
There we go. 27.
27 was Anyone But You, and it is higher than that.
Oh, there you go. 25.
25 was Sound of Freedom, and it is higher than that. So
it makes sense.
It is Wish. Wish came in at 24
there
worldwide. Like when you said 23, I was like, lower, but only just barely.
Yeah, there we
go. Taylor Swift's The Eras Tour worldwide did 261.6 million. And Wish is behind it at 254.58 million, with Sound of Freedom below that, 250.5 million. It fared better internationally. But yeah, Disney animation has obviously been getting very hit in recent years.
Yeah, it has been a really rough. Like this did have this had Chris Pine heading it as the voice. It's like the 100th Disney film. It wasn't like it didn't have like a pretty good like push behind it either. So it's just rough. I just think it is. I don't know. I don't know why, other than this movie just like on a personal level doesn't blow me out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, are they being like hamstrung by their own success at this point? Like a kind of Disney animation movie, is that just like such a like flash in the pan, like done?
Yeah, I think this suffered a little bit. um, there were like Chris Pine in there as the villain. I don't know how much that was drawing people to it. Ariana DeBose, while a great talent and Oscar winner for West Side Story, isn't a name necessarily. Um, and I think it just didn't have the kind of the mass groundswell of appeal. It is one of those, like, much like Encanto a few years ago, that didn't do great in the box office. I wouldn't be surprised if Wish does well, kind of in streaming, because I think that is another factor of this, is that a lot of Disney animation has suffered because of Disney Plus. Because, like, well, why should I bother going and seeing this in theaters when I'm going to be able to just play it for my kids on repeat in 3 months' time?
Yeah.
Might as well just wait until then. So yeah, I'd be curious with that. And I feel like it's celebrating the 100th anniversary of Disney wasn't necessarily the selling point that I think maybe Disney marketing thought it was going to be. Especially since it didn't do. I'll use shout out to Logan. I'll use like Bond as an example, where like when Bond has a big 40th anniversary or big 50th anniversary, they throw in tons of Easter eggs and stuff in there, and they like milk that we're celebrating X number of years of Bond. Like this has a few very key references that are very like blatant and stuff like that, but like this didn't have the like, we've hidden a reference to every single Disney animated film in this for Easter egg hunters to go find or something like that.
There was not a lot of that. I also felt like there was still like a very limited understanding of like what the plot was even going to be.
Yeah.
I think there is a lot of mistakes in marketing for this, which I'm not, once again, like, after we mentioned it earlier before we were on mic, Strange World, like, there is just such a, like, I think part of it is marketing, part of it is like, well, people go see the new Disney movie, but then they cut kind of non-impressed, like very unimpressive trailers. I don't recall a trailer for Wish being anything less than kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the Wish trailers were centered around like the one big song, of like, what is the This Wish song that Asha sings. I think that is another thing. I remember talking about it with you kind of after seeing it, of like, the music isn't like, the music is doing, I think, a Hamilton Lin-Manuel Miranda inspired thing of, we're not going to be about doing like, catchy hooks or catchy refrains or choruses or whatever. We're going to pack a lot of story moments and story dialogue into these to convey a lot. And there's going to be like a high word per song count, that doesn't necessarily relate to catchy. There's no, we don't talk about Bruno in this. There's nothing that even comes close to a we don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah.
Where like, that's just a hummable, catchy tune that like immediately, because of the amount of times they say it in the song, like you're going to remember that. Like there are, like, going back and rewatching it, I found myself really enjoying those songs a lot better this time around.
I agree.
But I still couldn't like sing them for you right now, or like even hum it. Like I can look at them and like think of the vibe and the tone of the song. But like the lyrics are so, again, like they play with like rhyme scheme and off rhymes and stuff like that. So it's not traditional catchy Disney fairy tale songs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another like knock against it in terms of like rewatchability, or especially in like the TikTok era, people doing stitches and stuff like that to the songs from this. I feel like it was never going to have a viral moment because of that, because it doesn't have any of those kinds of like bops.
It doesn't, and also I think that there's a lot about Wish that is very, I don't know. For me, when I watch Encanto, I see a lot of like my family in it.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that is like before I even watched it, my family was having dinner, and we like it brought up. It's like they're like, yeah. My sisters were kind of like beating around the bush, and then finally one of them said like, "All right, so like it's our family, right?" And
Cam is Bruno.
that you nailed that 100%.
I mean, we've talked.
I've talked about this before. Yeah. Like 100%. It was like that, and I'm like, I don't know what Bruno is, and I'm like, I don't know if I should be offended by that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, he's like the outsider, but he's not really considered. Like people love him, but he still sees himself as an outsider. And I watched the movie. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I know, I get it. I see it. Certainly I'm not hanging out in the walls with rats. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, yeah, no, I see it. And I think that there is
well, you are a little bit.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about that. I didn't hang out in there like you're like, oh, maybe it'll be gone. And I was like, no, it has to die. Yeah. Like, I'm very much not pro rat.
You're not going to let that thing present telenovela.
That is correct. I really look at Encanto in like through like a very family lens. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's because it is so like there are so many references. And I felt like a lot of them don't take any time to like lean on them a bit.
Yeah, I mean this one we'll talk about it a little bit more when we talk about like just kind of diving into the full story stuff. But yeah, like this one is not as like this is much more like a stereotypical like here's our hero character and she's up against the villain character and here's her sidekick friends. It's not, hey, here's the central family of this story. Figure out which one you are kind of beat. So yeah, it's very much a different flavor of Disney movie than Encanto or the Pixar like Turning Red kind of did a similar thing of like who are you in this friend group kind of vibes, and you know you've got obviously May as the main character, but you can see other people. So like the closest thing here would be like, who are you among her teen friends that are the dwarves, basically? That's not necessarily like even they're just caricatures more than
I think
characters with a deep like hope or dream or flaw or something.
I think that's probably the bigger issue for me is like there's nobody in this ensemble cast that I was just like most excellent. The best I could say is the star and the goat. But like they don't have a lot of the goat's like, I'm a goat and I'm talking and that's my character is that I'm a talking goat. Yeah. And the star is a like little mischievous little like scamp and it's awesome. And I love the star a lot. Mm-hmm. I love the star a lot more this time around because I just love I love that it's not like the way it communicates is through action and not through not through words. And it's fun to see kind of like interpretation of the star and like what its goal is and what it's doing. There's that. And then there's a lot of other things too that I liked about it. But when we're talking about like the actual, like why this doesn't hit for a lot of people, I think it is just like, there's too much caricature and not enough character.
Yeah.
In a lot of these characters, like they gave us this entire ensemble cast and really like,
and they're all pretty much just, hey, they are the one singular trait of their corresponding seven dwarfs.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, okay, that's the bashful one. That's the grumpy one. That's the like the Doc is the one that gets the most character as like kind of the best friend.
Yeah.
But everybody else is very much like, that's the sleepy one. That's the sneezy one. That's the bashful one. Diving into some of the other details we have, it's in and out, at least in that you're looking only at a runtime of an hour and 35 minutes. So a quick one there. In the Walt Disney Animated Studios timeline of things, we had Raya and the Last Dragon in March of 2021, followed by Encanto, November 2021, Strange World, as we touched on there, November of 2022, followed by Wish in the same slot last year, November 2023. Moana 2 is the next on the slate. Maybe it will break the curse in November of this year. Yeah. Followed by Zootopia 2, slated for next Thanksgiving. That's really they're just slotting in the Disney animated slots in Thanksgiving. And it's like, I don't know, guys, you should look at your, like, historically, that doesn't seem to be working too well for you. So maybe find a different time slot.
Frozen kind of broke that trend where they started doing well in that season. Mm-hmm. But most of the time it was the summer. Like the summer film was a Disney film.
Yeah. And so, like the summer film still is like a Pixar film kind
Yeah.
of thing. Like Inside Out 2 is this summer's kind of hit or entry at least. But I'm looking specifically at Disney animated. And speaking of, Frozen 3 is slated for a TBD date in 2026. So maybe they will return to that, like having that big blockbuster hit there.
Maybe. I will also say, like, Moana 2 is a film that I think, like, has a lot, like, it has a very small cast, but every single member of that cast has character to them.
Sure.
And I feel like there is, like, if you want to, like, I feel like this is kind of like an inverse of Moana, where Moana's a lot of new stuff, a lot of bringing in, like, big character, like, bringing in, like, a big actor like The Rock, and, like, really hammering home, like themes that are, like, not a typical, like, well-tread ground for Disney films, with the kind of Pacific Islander culture.
Yeah.
And I think when I look at that, I go, oh, okay, cool. But, like, that resonated with me a billion times more than Wish did.
Sure. Like,
I don't know.
On that note in particular, one of the things that I caught, like, on the second viewing here is that Wish is I mean, it has, like, a lot of, like, Mediterranean cultural influences in it.
I'd say it's very Iberian, like, Spanish. Like, there's a Spanish, like, almost like Muslim Spanish vibe to it.
Yeah. But it's like, it's not a focal point of it so much as, like, it's just background, in the same way that, like, the Doc character Dahlia has a crutch and like is handicapped in that regard, but, like, they never draw attention to it. It's just kind of there in her animation. It's just a facet of her character, but they're not like, she's the handicapped one or anything like that. So, like, I think there is an interesting, like, I applaud them for having kind of the diversity and the representation in there without being like, look at us, let's pat ourselves on the back for the diversity and representation that we're putting in the movie. Versus, like, a very Pacific, and maybe that's it. It's in Moana, it is a very, like, we're drawing on Pacific Islander kind of stories and storytelling, and that's the story we're telling with this one. Whereas this is, the setting is Mediterranean, nondescript Mediterranean city, but it's not like drawing from, like, specific mythology. It's just, hey, wishing on a star. That's a callback to a big, very, important Disney song in our lineage. So here's the origin story of the wishing star, in, like, the loosest of quotes. Yeah, it's almost the, like, the Lightyear issue from Pixar of, like, they had, like, an idea but didn't figure out how to really convey or determine, like, well, here's why we're telling the story. Here's why this matters in this universe. It's very much like, oh, Lightyear in universe is the movie that Andy saw. And it's like, all right, or you just wanted to make a Buzz Lightyear story and you didn't want to bring Tim Allen in for it.
Sure, yeah.
And this one is like, okay, yeah, When You Wish Upon a Star is such an iconic Disney thing. So let's, for our 100th, in honor of the 100th, anniversary celebration, let's do a story based on wishing upon a star.
Yeah, but then, like, I feel like the problem with that is, like, they didn't tell a very interesting story.
Sure. Yeah. Anyway, diving into our roll call here, the who's who of the film. Our directors are Chris Buck and Fawn Veerasunthorn. Chris Buck previously directed films like Tarzan, Surf's Up, Frozen, for which he has won an Oscar, as well as Frozen 2, and then Wish. And then Fawn Veerasunthorn. This is her debut directorial outing, but she has also been a story artist on Disney projects like Frozen and Moana. Our writers are Chris Buck and Fawn Veerasunthorn, as well as Jennifer Lee and Allison Moore, and then a couple other additional story material people. Jennifer Lee, who's credited on the screenplay and story, previously wrote on Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Zootopia, A Wrinkle in Time, Frozen 2, and now Wish. Allison Moore, also credited for the screenplay and story, is predominantly a TV writer on projects like Da Vinci's Demons, Powers, Manhunt, and Wish seems to be largely her first, like, major motion picture kind of thing. Chris Buck, who pulling double duty here, also worked on the story. He also worked on stories for Pocahontas, Surf's Up, the Frozen films, and now Wish. and Fawn Vera Thorne. This is also her debut as a writer. And then we have some additional story material from Carlos Lopez Estrada, who also wrote on Raya and the Last Dragon, as well as additional story material from Andrew Rothschild, who wrote for a show called Zack and Mia, which is run for 24 episodes. I don't know much about that, but that was seemed to be the most notable thing of his credits. Our cast of characters here, we have Ariana DeBose as Asha, as we touched on. She kind of was in the original Broadway cast of Hamilton. She then was in West Side Story a couple years back, which she won an Oscar for. She's also been in Westworld, Schmigadoon, and Wish. And then after Wish, she was also in Argylle. That came out earlier this year. Chris Pine as Magnifico. In looking things up, I was like, oh, who's he? One of his earliest things. I was like, what was Chris Pine's breakout thing? Because the first thing I really remember him from was Star Trek.
Oh no, it's Princess Diaries.
Exactly. Princess Diary 2, Royal Engagement. Yeah. That was the first thing that I was like, oh.
Did you not? You didn't know that?
I saw it. I haven't thought about that movie in 30 years or whatever. Or I guess 20 years, whatever, however long it's been.
I think about it maybe once every other year.
Okay. I remember the original Princess Diaries much better, much more closely. But yeah, he's the love interest in Princess Diaries 2, Royal Engagement.
Initially the rival.
Sure.
And then becomes love interest.
Yeah. Very, very 10 Things I Hate About You / Taming of the Shrew-esque. Yes. But then he would go on to be in the Star Trek movies. He's also into In the Woods, which I really like. Of course, the Wonder Woman films, A Wrinkle in Time, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and one of our favorites from last year, Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves.
Dungeons and Dragons.
We have Alan Tudyk here, kind of a Disney animation mainstay these days, as Valentino, who I always remember in kind of another blast to the past. I always shout out him for being in A Knight's Tale way back in the day, alongside, of course, Firefly, Dodgeball, iRobot. Around that time, I saw him in Spamalot on Broadway, so that was fun. And I have a fun little old Facebook photo, Facebook profile picture of me and my sister meeting him outside the backstage doors. He's done a ton of voice stuff, including K2SO in Rogue One. He's basically just doing the same voice that he uses for Clayface in Harley Quinn as Valentino here. The very deep voice. That's the kind of thing he's going for. But yeah, he's also been just various miscellaneous characters in a lot of recent Disney films. He's basically become the new John Ratzenberger, but on the Disney animation side of things. We have other characters. Angelique Cabral is Queen Amaya, who she has credits back to 2004, including Friends with Benefits. And I threw this in here just as a pop quiz for you, Cameron. Which one was Friends with Benefits of the it was there were two kind of rom-coms that had that same premise.
Oh, Friends with Benefits. Ooh, that is tough. Because one has Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis. And the other had it was Ashton Kutcher and Natalie Portman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So which one is Friends with Benefits? Yep. I want to say that's the Justin Timberlake Mila Kunis one.
That is correct.
There we go.
Yeah. I remember also thinking it was weird because it's got to be when those movies were being made is when Black Swan came out that also had Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis in it.
And it was a very different movie.
You guys realize you were both making the same movie at that time, right? It's one of those, Dante's Peak Inferno kind of vibes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Dante's Peak and Inferno, both volcano movies.
Sorry, not Dante's Peak and Volcano. That are what I was thinking, not Inferno.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No. But yes, very, very much they were the volcano movies. Deep Impact and Armageddon, obviously another one.
For me, for me, Volcano is such more of an urban thing, and then Dante's Peak is so much more rural.
I mean, sure, but they're still
they're both volcano movies.
Volcanoes that are incredibly destructive.
And Deep Impact and Armageddon are meteors are colliding with the planet.
Yeah.
Two very different things happen.
Sure. Yeah.
In those movies, but
it was just it's that whole, I mean, right now it's the sequels to franchise that have empire in the title. It's not a lot that are happening, but the fact that it happened twice in the same month is weird.
That's true.
With Ghostbusters Frozen Empire and the Kong versus Godzilla whatever of the empire in that one. Anyway, other things that Angelique Cabral was in were Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23 and Life in Pieces. Victor Garber as Sabino. You got him being in stuff like Titanic, probably most recognizable to a generation for his work in Legally Blonde, as well as Alias around that time. More recently, he was in Argo, as well as CW's The Flash / Legend of Tomorrow series, as one of the halves of Firestorm. And yeah, just a all around like Broadway legend kind of character. Natasha Rothwell as Sakina. I was like, oh yeah, no, that is her. She is the sister who got the big like wedding subplot in Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yes.
2. So yeah, she's in Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2. She's also in the DuckTales reboot. She was in Wonder Woman 1984, The White Lotus, Insecure, Wish, and she was in Wonka. She was one of the kind of crew that Timothée Chalamet works with in Wonka.
She is the the city plumber.
Yeah.
Or like she worked in city plumbing before she got captured and forced into debt.
Yeah. Then we have Jennifer Kumiyama as Dahlia, aka the Doc of the Friends. She doesn't have a lot in the way of credits, but she's been working on stuff since 2012. I saw just in her like IMDb bio that she used to work in performances at like Disneyland or California Adventure, I think at like the Hyperion Theater. So she used to do stuff there, longtime Disney person. And she is, I thought this was cool. Like she is handicapped. She is kind of confined to a wheelchair. So I appreciated that extra little element, knowing that and seeing Doc with her crutch, or Dahlia with her crutch rather. Harvey Guillen as Gabbo, aka the Grumpy One. He's got credits back to 2008, including iZombie, Werewolves Within, Archer, but he's probably best known for his work in What We Do in the Shadows, which he's been in 50 episodes of that. He's also been in almost 10 episodes of Harley Quinn as characters, including Nightwing and stuff like that. He's in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. He was in last year's Blue Beetle. And then he's also in Mickey Mouse Funhouse on Disney. And then he's going to be in the upcoming Garfield movie as Odie alongside Chris Pratt. Nico Vargas is Hal, aka the Happy One. And I started realizing at this point, each of them starts with the same letter as like their Snow White corresponding character. You have Dahlia Doc, Gabbo Grumpy, Hal Happy, Simon Sleepy, Safi Sneezy, Dario Dopey, and Bazima Bashful. So Hal here, miscellaneous credits starting in 2020, pretty new to the game. Evan Peters as our little villainous Simon Sleepy One, but Evan Peters having been in projects like Kick-Ass, he's been Quicksilver and all the Fox X-Men stuff. He's also in American Horror Story. He played Jeffrey Dahmer in Monster recently, and he is at least announced or rumored to be in an upcoming Tron film, Tron Ares. So we'll see if that ever comes to pass. Rami Youssef as Safi, aka Sneezy, having been in Mr. Robot, his self-titled series or special. Rami, he was in Poor Things last year, and he was, as of this recording, last week's SNL host. So, shout out to him for that, I guess. John Rudnitsky as Dario Dopey. Miscellaneous credits since 2001, including a season of SNL that I'd completely forgotten that he was a character on. He was also in Big Hero 6, the series, as well as episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm. And then lastly, Dalasaba as Bazima Bashful. She's also been in stuff like Zootopia, Steven Universe, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and the series Kung Fu Panda, The Dragon Knight. And I guess one last one I'll throw out here. Nassim Pedrad, I believe. She's in here. It's much more like in the cameo vein, but like she is the person who whose wish Magnifico grants at the beginning instead of the Saba character.
Yes.
So she's the one that comes up and like, I'm gonna be a great dressmaker kind of thing. That's a little quick cameo from Nassim Pedrad. I think I'm saying that. I think I'm saying her name right. Yeah. Who I always enjoy from SNL as well as her work on New Girl when she came on there. Anyway, some trivia here. The film is dedicated to Bernie Mattinson, a Disney legend who died on February 27th, 2023, having worked at Disney Animation Studios for over 70 years. And the crew who worked on the film watched all previous 61 animated films while working on the film. And then I got just kind of a bucket of Disney history Easter eggs. So we'll kind of work through these. One of the more subtle nods to earlier Disney films is the fact that in the first act, Asha aspires to be a sorcerer's apprentice, just like Mickey in Fantasia. The bear John is a reference to Little John, the bear character from Robin Hood. Asha's friends are modeled after the Seven Dwarves, as we kind of already touched on. Asha's grandfather is celebrating his 100th birthday, a reference to the Disney Studios Centennial. Asha wears a cloak resembling the one worn by the fairy godmother in Cinderella. Receives the stick that resembles the wand, slash the actual wand but that the fairy godmother uses. As Magnifico pops wishes in his cellar, we see Peter Pan in one wish, and he describes Mary Poppins in another. The rabbit in the forest after Asha makes her wish is a reference to Thumper from Bambi, obviously, including the iconic tapping of the right foot. Sleeping Beauty's dress appears in the wish of the woman that wants to be a dressmaker. The film starts with a very storybook opening, similar to the styles of the OG Snow White, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty films from the 50s. The Little Mermaid reference, Magnifico talks about about true love and poor unfortunate souls. The buck in one of the singing portions of the movie is revealed to have the name Bambi, obviously a reference to that film. Near the 1 hour mark, on Magnifico's bench, an apple with dripping poison can be seen at the left side of the screen, similar to the poison apple from Snow White. After Magnifico gives into the power of the forbidden magic, his power radiates with green light, a long-standing trope with Disney villains, including but not limited to Maleficent, Ursula, Scar, and Dr. Facilier. When King Magnifico gets sucked inside his staff, there is a brief blink and you'll miss it shot of the mask from the magic mirror of Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, shown amongst the green smoke. And then lastly, in the little post-credits scene here, Asha's grandfather's dream was to create something inspiring for the future generations, and after the end credits, we see him, quote-unquote, writing the song When You Wish Upon a Star, the signature tune of Walt Disney Animation. One that I pulled in here just because I'm like, yeah, why wasn't that in there? The Rescuers excluded entirely from the end credits little long sequence with all the little star nods to a whole bunch of other movies in the the can. So yeah, weird that Rescuers
wasn't part of it. Yeah,
was not. Sakina, aka Asha's mom, Sakina's wish was never revealed in the film, but the book Disney Wish, A Recipe for Adventure, discusses that her wish was to see her daughter shine and succeed. So it's nice that does end up coming true by the end. And then lastly, Ariana DeBose is the 6th Academy Award winner to play the lead in a Disney animated film after Bing Crosby, having been in The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Tom Hanks in the Toy Story series, Joaquin Phoenix in Brother Bear, Ben Burt in WALL-E, and Jamie Foxx in Soul most recently. So Cam, what did you think on this kind of rewatch reviewing in addition to some of the items we've already discussed?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it a lot more than I think I did previously. I shouldn't say a lot more. I like it more than I did the last time I watched it. I think it still has a lot of like structural issues, like I kind of touched on at the top of the show. I don't think that it's bad by any means. I think it's better than, this is the thing. It's a Disney animated film, so it's good. It's good. It has good songs, but it's nowhere near the greats. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of like the flaw of being part of such a storied pedigree that you are kind of a showcase for. You're showcasing all the great things that have come before you, but there's nothing about Wish that I feel like stands out as its own in a way that is equal to the things it's paying homage to. I feel like it holds up fine as a film. I don't think that it's going like it's not going to like I'm not going to rewatch this a second or third time and all of a sudden be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I missed this deep cool thing about it." It's just like, "Oh, I just caught more Easter eggs this time." I think that really comes down to is this is the kind of film that it is. It's the film that they wanted to make, and they were successful in making a good film. But overall, my feelings about it have not changed significantly. But I do feel like it's a better film than I thought it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I think one of the biggest things I found myself appreciating more this time around was, as I said earlier, the songs. I think this Wish is very much kind of the showcase song that they really kind of they really kind of like give to Ariana DeBose to kind of celebrate her. One of the other things she does that I didn't mention in kind of her casting is she's also been like the Tony host for last year, and then I believe she's doing it again this year. So they like very much lean into her musical theater background and kind of that aspect of her. Like she very much has the Welcome to Rosa song, which is almost kind of the like family madrigal. Here's all the exposition you need to like enjoy the rest of the movie set up. Then she has like the duet with Chris Pine talking about like protecting the wishes. And it was like really watching this, it was like, oh my God, this is like they don't even really talk. They don't reference the thing that they're protecting at all costs as wishes. It is very much like, this is a song you could sing about your child or your children. It is very much like it's almost the like Dear Theodosia kind of vibe of the song of like,
yeah,
this is a song I'm singing about my child, but in the context of the film, it's about the wishes that Magnifico is protecting. I liked in the original time, and I enjoyed it, I think, a little bit more this time around. The Magnifico's like villain song of like, this is the thanks I get. Just because it's a fun little like it's like the best villain song is always going to be like Be Prepared, but this is a very different like vibe, I think, to the villain song of like, yeah, it's and you know, fuck James Woods, but it's very much like if Hercules had like a villain song for Hades, it's that kind of vibe of like, this is the kind of villain song I think he would have.
I agree. Yeah, like nobody's grateful for all the things that I do.
Yeah,
sort of a thing.
But at the same time, like the thing I think I appreciated more, because again, the part of the issue of like just watching this in the theaters the first time around is like, it's bombarding you with all these lyrics and stuff for the first time that like I was missing a whole bunch of stuff on like the rewatch. He's not talking about like all of the things he does. He's saying, I will volunteer other people in the community to do these things to help you out. Like the first few examples he gives are like, I will, you know, take the shirt off that guy's back to put it on you if you need it. It's not like I will give you my shirt. It's I will exploit the people in this community to make your thing happen
and to make me look good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's definitely the vibe that it gets. It's also like he's like I kind of put it out leaving the theater. I was like, yeah, no, like that's such an asshole song. Like he does this whole thing about like, I'm a landlord. I gave you a place to live.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, they just had to give you their dream, their like greatest hope and dream.
Mm-hmm.
Literally the thing emotionally and mentally like most precious to them. They had to give it up so that they can just live in your country. Like, yeah, he's a shitbag.
Yeah. The This Wish and I'm a Star songs that Asha has kind of as the wish happens are like, they're fun, kind of nice things. They aren't the like big epics that I would think of in terms of like, you know, I wouldn't put them up there with like Ariel or Belle or something like that in terms of like some iconic songs. But I did this time around, I think the one that I really found myself enjoying, and at least musically, was the Knowing What I Know Now, where like everybody's kind of like the Magnifico's like hunting them down kind of thing, and they're all like in hiding, saying like, he's the bad guy, like we need to band together. It's that kind of like knowing the things I know now. And I love the moment where like they all come to a crescendo, the door opens and we see like a shadow, and it's the queen who immediately comes in as like, yeah, he's a bad guy, and now I'm going to join in for the final verse of this song with you. Like I knowing what I know now, yeah, he's bad. There's incredibly like abbreviated shorthand storytelling in a lot of this, including like lines that are very much like once you go bad, once you embrace dark magic even once, there's no turning back. So it's like, okay, so we've just there's no redemption story for him. He's just a bad guy.
He's just
now.
a bad guy.
There's no saving this. There's no saving him. It's like, that seems like that black or whiteness.
Yes.
Is a very, like, that is a throwback to Disney animation stories of old. Whereas, like, I think more modern storytelling has been like, okay, here's a better nuance. And maybe we can give you a, like, hey, he did bad things, but for the right reasons or something like that. And they're like, they very much are like, nope, he did a bad thing once and he is now bad forever. He can't be saved.
It's like, yeah, we're how many films removed from Moana where literally the big bad turns out to have just been somebody hurt and abused and given her heart back, returns back to her original state and even forgives Maui. Like,
yeah, there's
so many things we've learned, like we've gotten in Disney films since then that like this throwback to he touched the darkness, now he's evil. Yeah, is such a, it's like
it would have been, even there, I think like it would have been interesting, I think, if they had been like, if they set that up and then they make the Queen's wish to like bring him back, make him good again, kind of thing, like, or something like that, where like that's the wish that she gets fulfilled is, I want my husband back to be the man who he used to be, and the man I fell in love with, or something like that.
The idea that
but he just gets trapped in the magic mirror
because we have to have him be he's going
to be the Snow White's mirror or the Queen's mirror.
Yeah, like that's we have to do the payoff for that. And it's like, or like, I think you're right. I think like, because they point out it's like, yeah, when he first started doing it, he was like, well, I'm going to make sure everybody's dream state stay safe, and then we grant them, and it'll be wonderful. And then it turned into the hoarding and the kind of like draconic effect of it. I can't grant this wish about somebody creating something because he wants to inspire something, because I don't know if that's going to be in my best interest. Like, he might inspire rebellion against me. It's all right, paranoid creeper. Yeah, he's definitely.
You're already gone. You're already gone from the beginning of this movie, even if you're not dabbling in dark magic. But like, you could have had a like seeing the error of his ways or something like that. And let's make wishes come true, or let's realize that, hey, this magic isn't the way to go about this. Let's make these wishes come true as a community. And I'm not gonna just wave my wand and make this happen for you, but here are your wishes back. Go work towards them, or something like that. Very much what Asha does, by the end, kind of thing of here, everybody take your hopes and dreams back, and we can't just rely on magic to fix our stuff. So yeah, the oversimplistic-ness of this film, I think, is the, like, in one aspect, it is like, oh yeah, that's a throwback to the, like Dumbo's 60 plus minutes or something like that, barely over an hour. It's like, yeah, there's not much movie there because they're working with a very bare bones story and stuff. And so, it's a very throwback in that nature, but I don't know if that's really what we're looking for in 2023, 2024. In terms of like storytelling, I think Disney has had, and has evolved past that. And so this like, they didn't need to hang their hook on that, in terms of like, that's the beat we're going to carry for how we're going to honor the past, is we're going to do an incredibly simple incredibly simple story with very one note characters. Those were breathtaking at the time because animation was breathtaking at the time. Like, but now the animation here looks great, sure, but you got to do it, in this era, you got to do more than that. Or the Spider-Verse movies are going to continue to eat lunch, or Boy and the Heron, or I mean, did Wish even get nominated for?
No, they get nominated for
best animated film last year.
No, it didn't. There was, because it wasn't one of the best animated films of last year. Like I wish that this was like the 100-year culmination was also a culmination of like really great storytelling and everything, but it's not. Mm-hmm. It is what it is, and it's not a bad movie, but like, we're getting animated films knocking things out of the park now. Like last year we had Across the Spider-Verse, and it was considered one of the best movies of the animated films of the year. Like for you and I, it was our favorite animated film of the year. But
you had Boy and the Heron that ended up winning the Oscar
Yeah.
for Miyazaki.
like legitimately phenomenal animated films came out last year. Like The Wish doesn't even crack the top 5 animated films that came out last year. Like
I mean, I get like it obviously in the Disney wheelhouse lost to Elemental got nominated, but Wish did not.
And Elemental is a much more incredible film. Like Elemental 10th in the box office worldwide. Like we touched at the beginning. Like that movie touched people and impacted them massively. And on top of that, it's one of the most brilliantly animated films that we've ever seen. Like the way that each element is in 3D done the way that it is. Like flames aren't just like, oh, it's the shape of a flame. There's constant animations going on inside of each fire person. Like there's such incredible animation going on. Your really good animation just doesn't crack the mold.
Yeah. Let's see. The other two that were nominated, Nimona and Robot Dreams. I can't speak. I heard a lot of good things about Nimona, more so in the context of like, can you believe? I think it was like Disney passed on this, and it just ended up going straight to Netflix, kind of thing.
Yep.
And then I don't really know much about Robot Dreams, but it seems like it was a kind of international animated film maybe. But yeah, shout outs to that. And yeah, so Wish, the big 100th anniversary celebration kind of thing. There is also this interesting aspect where I think obviously many of the most iconic Disney animated films are very much like, taking a fairy tale and doing the Disney animation version of it. And when they do dive more into like, we're going to tell an original story, it ends up being way more hit or miss. So this one being kind of in that original camp, just ends up not really firing on all cylinders. So yeah, but it's still, there's still fun there. It's still, enjoyable enough time. I'll probably, for the next week or so, throw on. I did it today during my lunch break. I pulled up the movie on my phone and just kind of like scrubbed through to the various songs. So I was like, I just want to hear that again. I enjoyed that song. Just going to want to rock out to that moment a little bit. All right. Well, let's dive into the report card. Unless you have any final thoughts you want to give on.
One thing I will say, I was really impressed by the quality of hair in this movie. Watching it again, I was like,
Sure.
They really do really good with the hair. Like everybody's hair looks really, really good, which is not an easy thing because a lot of times in animation, hair stays stiff. And I felt that especially both Magnifico as well as Asha, both of them have like really great like hair animation throughout the film. Asha especially, but I was just really impressed by that. I was like, oh, there is some really good animation going on here. But like for me to be like the best part of the animation was the hair. Says all you need to say. I'm ready to report.
Sure. So yeah, what do you want to give from A+ to F? What do you want to give Wish?
I just give it a solid B. I think it's a solid B movie. It's not bad and it's not terrible. It's better than average of like an average film out there, but it is just a solid B for me.
Yeah, I think I can probably meet you there. I might have gone B-, might have gone C+, might have gone B+, but yeah, I think B probably does sound about right for this one. Has some has some highlights, but overall there's nothing too like I'm not gonna think about this movie too much a year from now kind of thing.
The way I put it is it's a good movie. It's just not spectacular. There's nothing about this movie that screams spectacular.
Yeah. Extra credit, other suggestions. If you do like Wish, you have Encanto, which we've talked about at length in this episode. You have Raya and the Last Dragon, Frozen 2, Moana, Tangled, The Princess and the Frog, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs for that throwback feel, and the original Frozen. So yeah, for a movie that's very heavily inspired by some of the earliest ones, the fact that they're like, we recognize that the only one we're really going to plug here in the recommended is the first one of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Everything else, you're probably going to see better stories, later on. Then we dive into extracurriculars. Anything else you watching on Disney Plus, or was it very much just jump in, watch Wish, and then?
Oh, X-Men 97. I'm still watching that. Like, I haven't watched the latest episode yet this week's episode, but like I am tuned in for X-Men 97 for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I threw on X-Men 97, watched the latest episode in this week, which is an interesting one, especially after like our discussion last week of the first 3 episodes, because this one feels maybe the most like the 90s animated show, but not in the best ways. This is very like it is a I want to say it's like a 30-ish minute story, but it's very much like 2 episodes in one kind of thing. It's like the first half of the episode is a Jubilee story, and then the second half of the episode, which could have just been different episodes if they, were maybe even if they had done like in the past, the Jubilee episode would have been the Jubilee episode, and they would have added a couple scenes filler.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is very like they cut out filler, so they have just Jubilee stuff, but then they just jump to a completely unrelated thing for a Storm episode. But they're both just in the same
episode. That's
episode of X-Men 97.
And there's no like crossover between the 2 stories?
No.
Okay. Well.
Nope. No, that's the thing. It's you get the beginning, middle, and end of the Jubilee story, and then you get the beginning, middle, and end of the Storm story. So it was to the point that like I was watching it, I'm like, there's only one episode that came out. Did they just smash these 2 things together and decide we're not going to give them the opening credit scene in the middle? Because it feels like they could have. It feels like they could have done, just a Jubilee story. Then next week could have just been the Storm story. They would have been significantly shorter episodes than the 30 minutes that they've been doing. But so that's what this one feels like. It's fine, but it was very much like, oh yeah, this is a different change of pace compared to the first 3. So interesting to see but I do know like coming up there are like 2 and 3 part episodes that are coming up. So they're going to be doing longer stories. I think this was very much a like, let's move some pieces on the chessboard around.
Yeah.
To set up for some of those larger stories that are going to have bigger payoffs. Then beyond that, I also watched Bad Batch. I think I only watched there were 2 episodes that came out this week for Bad Batch. I think I watched the first one. I think I bounced away and did not get back to the second one. But maybe I'll do that after we finish recording here.
Yeah.
And then also just after watching Wish, because I know one of the things we talked about back in the on the That Nerdy Site show was the idea that Saba seems to be an aged up version of the kid from Coco.
Yeah.
So like watching it, I don't see that as much apart from like, yeah, he plays guitar. But it did get me in the mood to go back and watch part of Coco. So I just threw on like the ending of Coco so I could just...
Oh, so you could just cry?
So I could just cry and enjoy the slow version of Remember Me and those beats and stuff like that. So yeah, it was fun. Good times. So yeah, I did that too.
So you could just cry.
I mean, I'm a sucker for that. And I mean, to that...
I cry at the end of Coco every time.
Even this, I going back to Wish, I did find myself getting emotional at the ending where like the king is keeping everybody down, and it's that tropey moment of like, well, the town's all gonna band together and overcome this evil together, kind of thing. And it was like, yeah, I'm a sucker. I remember I feel like somebody in the internet space was like, yeah, I'm a sucker for any time. Oh, I think it's Brennan. In an episode of Game Changer or something like that. It's like, I'm a sucker for any time, like a community overcomes, an obstacle. Or no, it's Tao. That's what it is. Teo rather. And I think in that first like lie detector episode of Game Changer way back in season 1.
Yeah.
That's so, but it's like I think he says like, tell me a secret. I'm a sucker for that moment in a story where like a group of people or a community come together to overcome an obstacle. Like that gets me every time. And I was like, you know what, Teo, that gets me too, because when everybody starts singing the I Wish reprise at the end and kind of like breaking free of their chains and stuff, I was like, hell yeah, you go, people of Rosas. It's weird that you're all in the same outfits except for our little crew of 7 dwarves and Asha, who's in purple, whereas everybody else is in blue. But good for all of you for singing through the evil king's magic. So anyway, but yeah, that's going to do it for this episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to talk about Wish. You can follow Cameron at RevCabot, 2 B's and 2 T's. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, I want to give a massive shout out. We are speed running through Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth Let's Plays. We're putting them out 4 at a time in a week, or 4 a week now. And we ain't done yet. Still got some more to come. So stay tuned for that. Time for you to get your weekly Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth speed run. Take them all in, enjoy them while they last.
Indeed, yeah. We started this week doing, in addition to our normal Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're going to be doing Saturday and Sundays. So stay tuned to the YouTube channel this weekend for more of those episodes, and that'll basically put us on. We're going to do that Saturdays and Sundays. And the last episode of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth will be dropping on April 20th. So blaze it or whatever, which is not really like a thing in that game. So it's the date and that's it. There's no real symbolic thing with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. But it's definitely a fun one as just kind of a, hey, I don't want to be scheduling this through May. So yeah. The game came out in January. Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up a little bit. But I don't know if we have anything lined up for after that. So we might be going on another little bit of hiatus on Let's Plays or whatnot. But still got a handful of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth episodes to come. Outside of that, I will plug. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey, and I will shout out if you enjoyed the Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire, and go catch Cameron and Maya's spoiler cast on that Nerdy Site show this last week. So definitely go give that a listen if you are so inclined. Once again, you can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com. If you liked what you heard, please remember to rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all those fun things you can do. Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, and class dismissed.